Hello and welcome to the Coaching Crowd podcast with me, Jo Wheatley, and my friend and co-host Zoe Hawkins.
Hi, everybody. Today we are talking to you about how great mentors are great coaches because we recognize there'll be many people that are listening to this who identify more actually as a mentor than a coach. And we have firmly believe that you need to have excellent coaching skills in order to be a great mentor. And there is real value in being a mentor and fully owning that role. So we're going to bring to you just some discussion around that today.
Yeah, and we don't really see it as such a like you're either a coach or you're a mentor. There can be moments of crossover in conversations in reality in everyday life. And so when you're thinking about how can I become an even more effective mentor, maybe you're somebody that people often come to for advice and you notice that people are suggesting to others like go and speak to so and so, and you're thinking, am I doing the best I can for these individuals? How can I support them? And then also some people say to you, do you know what, you should consider being a coach? And you're like, what actually is the difference between coaching and mentoring? A great place to start is by doing a coaching qualification, which typically will talk about the differences between coaching and mentoring, where there may be some overlap, but also what the boundaries are between them. But
Mm,
great coaches and great mentors have share the same foundational skills, all the things we talk about on this podcast, the ability to hold space for somebody, the ability to ask reflective, deep questions to enable the other person to reflect deeply on themselves. It's the ability to hold silence. It's the ability to challenge, the ability to support, the ability to connect on a personal level with another individual. And whilst mentors, their role is about sharing their personal experience, and maybe they've achieved something that the person coming to support hasn't yet achieved and wants to achieve. It's also recognizing that that individual is not them and their experience of the world will be different. So when you have got those broader coaching skills, you can not only draw on your own experience, but also those great coaching skills to enable that person to take what's useful from your experience and your learning and also apply that into the realities of their own situation where they feel empowered to make decisions that are right for them.
mm. I think there's something when it comes to mentoring that what makes a great mentor is knowing when it's right to share your experience. And I know that sounds bizarre because as a mentor, you are there. That is your role, to help and guide and advise and share your experience. But I think it's having the emotional intelligence and connection to be able to notice when is the person that you're with, when is your mentee leaning on your experience because something that they lack in themselves? Maybe it's confidence or certainty or clarity or something. And that isn't something that you can give them from your experience. That's something that you need to help them to find and discover. And that's where you become more of a coach. That's where you leverage those skills of coaching. You're still in the role of mentor, but it's one of those places where you'll come down to the other end of the continuum and notice that, this is a place where my coachee, my mentee needs to find something for themselves. And I think that's what's amazing about great mentors is recognizing those moments. I've been in coaching sessions before where I know I'm in the role of a coachee and I know my coach is there. And there are times where I'm asking for my coach's experience because I'm at a place where I'm very stable with where I'm at. I'm great with my ideas. I've got all my clarity and I'm very interested now in hearing, their opinion, their story. And I think the ability to be able to travel along that and know, when is this valuable and when is this not? That's what makes both great mentors and great coaches.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think, I look for people all the time that to inspire me, that I respect, I'm interested in their learning. And it's not coming from a place of deficit that I can only find the answers in other people, but it's because it's part of the way I learn. It's part of the way I energize myself. And so, do people work with mentors and coaches? Yes, of course. Of course, they both have a value and they play slightly different roles, as does the way each person approaches each of those roles, can affect what you get out of them. So, mentoring has a really important role to be played. And if you're a manager or a leader, you will have people in your team that want you to mentor them more than they want you to coach them. And you'll have people in your team that want you to coach them more than they want you to mentor them. And so having that full spectrum of capability and skills is going to enable you to be the most agile, supportive, enabling manager or leader that you can be.
Mm. I think it's really important, if you're certainly finding this podcast, to recognize that coaching and mentoring are created equally. One is not better or worse than the other. And there can be some of a superiority, as you look to the profession where there isn't as much recognition for mentoring. There are coaching bodies, and there's one coaching body who equally recognizes coaching and mentoring, but there aren't as many places to go to get recognized as a mentor. And I think when you come into the coaching industry, there is a place for mentoring, and there is a place to recognize those skills and to build upon those skills through a framework. So if you take the European Mentoring and Coaching Council as an example, they will look to both your coaching and your mentoring experience when it comes to accreditation. And I think that's a really important point of validation, to recognize that mentoring does have its place in not the helping profession. I think that's maybe too broad a term, but in terms of helping people with their development, mentoring is, it is a profession.
And there, in that context, it's about understanding when you're coaching and understanding when you're mentoring and making sure that you are supporting that individual in accordance with what you have contracted, the way that you have agreed to work together, and being clear around those different hats that you can wear.
Yeah. I think also when it comes to being a mentee, it's important to be able to recognize what you are there for. So, as a mentee, when you come into the space, I think you're talking to it there, Joe, around contracting, is how do you, as a mentor, describe the experience of what you are there to deliver? Like, do you have clarity to be able to share, this is what my role is, this is what my responsibilities are, these are the boundaries of where I am able to mentor you and where I'm able to not mentor you? And I think these are the things that you get from um, professionalizing that experience. Often people become mentors, don't they? Because they are great listeners. They're very empathetic. Some of what you described at the start of the podcast there, Joe. And when you find yourself in that place to be able to formalize those experiences, you can come and look to, well, what are the competencies that make a great mentor? What are the skills and experience that make a great mentor? And actually, what tools and techniques can you use as a mentor with your mentees to help them to understand both the experience they're getting and what they want to get out of it at the end?
I think great mentors uh, see and experience and sets the context for the conversation as being equal to equal, adult to adult. Whereas I think often when people think about mentoring, there's probably a sense of you're going to somebody that's got more of this and more of that than you. So almost like a one-up kind of a scenario. But I think that great mentors wouldn't create that sort of a dynamic. There would be respect for everything that the mentee has experienced and that they're bringing into that role. In the same way as I think a great mentor isn't just going to pass on their experience, and they're not going to be saying, you should do this and you should do that. I think a great mentor is going to take time to really understand what it is that the individual wants to achieve and help them to understand what it is that they want to achieve, because that's a piece of work in itself. And then, where relevant, as you were saying earlier, Zoe, offer to share their experience, and that may well be extremely valuable for the mentee. And there can be a lot of informal mentoring, the same as there can be a lot of informal coaching, and there also can be formalized mentoring agreements. And we volunteered for the EMCC, didn't we, and set up that pilot mentoring scheme the first one that they had. And the process around that is very similar to coaching, having the chemistry conversation, setting out expectations of the role of the mentor and also the mentee, and thinking about what preparation is going to help to orientate them to mentoring and to be able to get the most out of that mentoring situation. Because I know people that have had mentors, and when I've asked them, and sometimes it's in coaching, and when you ask them, what do you want to get out of it? And they say, I don't know. And
Mhm.
maybe that's the same for coaching, that a lot of people come to coaching and they're not really sure what they can expect to get out of it. And that can be a learning process at the start of those things. Now, ideally, that would happen in a chemistry conversation, but sometimes that learning takes a little bit of time, finding their way together, that particular mentor and that particular mentee. But it can be hugely rewarding both for the mentor and for the mentee. And those relationships can last a long time. They can be people that stay in each other's networks, for a long time. And then also it can inspire people to pass it on as well. Often when people have had a really great mentoring experience, they want to pay it forwards to others and be able to share that. And I think it's probably similar for coaches too. But that space is, a great mentor has those great coaching skills, like understanding about contracting, setting expectations, helping people to understand how they can get the most out of the experience or the opportunity that they have with their mentor.
That piece you said around adult to adult, and I was reflecting on, mentors are there to pass on their experience. And I think it's actually much broader than that. I think great mentors passing on their experience is really only a slice of what they do. I think great mentors pass on their mindset. I think they pass on their resilience. They pass on, their thought patterns. It's not really just about here's what I did, and if you do that, then you'll get to where I am. Like that's such a tiny part of what mentoring is actually about. I think great mentors are there to help their mentee to navigate their journey to where they want to go. It just so happens that where they want to go might be a similar destination. And so, yes, you're going to draw on your experience, but actually having a self awareness as a mentor to know how did I get to where I got to? Because it isn't just a series of actions, it's a series of beliefs, it's a series of emotions. So if a great mentor has high self-awareness around, I have this mindset and I overcame this belief and this challenge and I dealt with my emotions in this way, those are life lessons that can be passed on. Now, some will be relevant and some that won't, but it's not really about a doing thing. Mentoring is often about a being thing. And I think that's where coaching and mentoring can sit so comfortably side by side, is because coaches obviously work with people to help them to understand their own mindset and to understand where they have blocks and how they want to overcome it. And mentors are really doing the same thing. It just so happens that they may be sharing more stories around their journey, and so mentees can feel less alone because they recognize that, oh, there's this person in front of me who I admire and who has got to this position that I'd like to have, and they share many of the things that are holding me back right now. And I think that's a really normalizing experience and born out of great coaching skills.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think often people can look at others in organizations that maybe are further along the career pathway, and from the outside looking in, it appears so easy to them. And it can be quite a surprise that if that person is identified as a potential mentor for them and they develop that relationship, that the individual discloses a whole range of, inner doubts or things that they've overcome, or maybe that they are still aware of and have to actively manage in order to be able to perform at the level and sustain themselves at that particular level. And I guess sometimes what the mentee finds out means that they choose a different pathway, and that's okay too. The thing with coaching, same as mentoring, is you never quite know what the outcome is going to be at the end when you are at the beginning. You only know what you know at that point. But the more that other people can learn and get, little windows into other people's experience, the more that they can make those informed choices. And I think it's brilliant when organizations easily offer the opportunity for people to be mentored, not only by their line manager, but also gaining access to people at different levels in the organization. And of course, there's reverse mentoring too. And I think, where you've got reverse mentoring, also it's like, how do you equip individuals to be able to be great mentors? And that is give them some training and coaching skills to be able to hold and create those spaces. And also give them some training in like the process of mentoring and how to create that relationship with another person. And great mentors need to know how to manage beginnings, the middle bit, but also the ending too.
Mm.
Sometimes it can be a really great experience and then almost like it's gone past the point at which it's useful. And so how do they learn how to manage those endings effectively too?
Yeah, and I was just thinking around great mentors detach from the outcome. Now, that piece that you were saying around the path can become something different. I think it's quite easy for mentors to get hooked on their mentees' outcomes, particularly within the same organization. So you've spent this time mentoring this person, they're about to go for a role, they go through the interview process, they don't get it. How do you feel as a mentor? Do you feel angry? Do you feel sad? Do you feel the disappointment for your mentee? And I think what you learn through coaching is how do you stay in full support of your client whilst detaching, because it's got to be the client's journey. And I think mentors that are great are able to do that. They're able to recognize like, no, this is my mentee's journey. This is a learning opportunity. Let's reflect on the experience and see what is here that is valuable, rather than, experiencing all the emotions because you've got this psychodynamic that is occurring between you. So I think, that's another place where coaching skills is really helpful. So obviously in coaching, we work on deep reflective practice and supervision. And I think there's a real need for that in mentoring as well, where you have mentors who are really serious about mentoring, and, it's part of the role that they enjoy. Supervision for mentors, I think, is particularly important and also helps to deepen their reflective practice, which enables them to be even better mentors.
And I think that people in organizations now will be asking questions around, is there somebody that can mentor me? Is there a mentoring scheme that I can become part of? And that's brilliant if you've got individuals in your organization that are seeking support with their development, that are wanting to draw on the knowledge, skills, and experience that already exist, and they want to accelerate their development. And it's great if you're an organization and you can say, yes, we've got a scheme. Here's how to access it. Here's how a match is made. Here's how long those relationships tend to last for. Here's some other resources that might help you along the way.
Mm. So, for all you mentors who are listening and for all coaches who are listening, I think take away that coaching and mentoring are a symbiotic relationship. Yes, there is a place for each. And if you are a mentor who hasn't had any formal training, then do consider coming to join a coaching training as a way to deepen and broaden your mentoring expertise. And if you'd like to do that with us, you can find details on our website at igcompany.co.uk.